You should celebrate who you became in the process, not the title you earned in the end. Why does success stop feeling like success? Well, let's talk about it. Do you struggle to attribute your own success to yourself? Do you avoid celebrating your accomplishments because they're not that big a deal anyway? Trust me, I have been there and I get it. When someone reaches a certain level of success, whether in their career, academics, personal life, fitness, whatever, something subtle happens, right? Their baseline for expectations shifts. What once felt like an impossible goal, a massive mountain to climb, it just becomes normal. What used to be a milestone becomes what I should have done anyway. Success becomes expected, and you could see the kind of slippery slope we're dealing with. You begin to feel like there is no other valid option, and pressure begins to set in. You start to think that because you've succeeded so many times before, that it's just supposed to happen. This is a form of hedonic adaptation, often referred to as the hedonistic treadmill. This human tendency makes us quickly return to a baseline of satisfaction after a positive or negative event. Essentially, our minds just recalibrate, right? Not because we're ungrateful, but because we've evolved through those standards. Once we achieve something, it stops becoming special and it becomes part of who we are. That's where we start to see people setting their identity to kind of mirror their accomplishments. And eventually it becomes one and the same. To the successful person, it's no longer an accomplishment, it's just an expectation that they have. This mindset shift can be so crippling and it can ruin any life accomplishment, right? Get a promotion at work? Should have gotten it anyway. Finally hit $100,000 a year in your business? Well, I've been working really hard and I've made it work this far. It was inevitable. But what happens when the world isn't so kind and we don't succeed? It's bound to happen eventually, and we need to know how to deal with it. When we begin to hold ourselves to such a high standard, if we fail to meet it, we begin to think less of ourselves. That self-doubt begins to take root, and then the next thing you know, you're a failure in your own story. This isn't on purpose, but that initial baseline shift can set us up for a lot of disappointment later on down the road. So how can we combat this, right? Let's talk about some realistic ways that we can implement Stoic wisdom into our own lives and reframe success as alignment with virtue. One of the things is, instead of asking, did I win or did I achieve enough? Ask yourself if you acted with integrity or if you've handled some adversity with patience. Or ask yourself, did I do the best with what I had? The Stoics believe that virtue is the only true good. If you've acted rightly, justly, that in itself is success, and everything else is irrelevant. Another way to really put things into perspective is to practice gratitude. Marcus Aurelius began his meditation journal by thanking people in his life, whether it was his teachers or soldiers, mentors, whoever. And it wasn't sentimental, it was a practice of grounding. And it helped to kind of humble himself as well. Another thing we could do is to try journaling. Write down what you've achieved and write down what it took to overcome any adversities you have. Another thing that I really love and I swear by it is to celebrate the process, right? It's not the end result, but the journey, and I'm sure you've heard that before. A Stoic celebrates discipline, not the trophy. So when you hit a goal, pause, reflect, not on the result, but on the consistency and decisions and self-control it took for you to even get to that point in the first place. Another great way of humbling yourself is to return to a beginner's mind, right? Epictetus said, it's impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. So when success becomes normal, curiosity dies. Reignite that habit of being a student, right? Learn something new, take on challenges, make yourself humble again. It really helps to reset your perspective. Separate your identity from your achievements. You're not your resume. Stoics taught the art of being enough as you are without attaching your self-worth to your performance. This in itself is liberation, and it allows you to strive and rest both without guilt. Finally, when success stops feeling like success, it's not because you're broken, it's because your mind has outgrown its old standards, and there's nothing wrong with that. The Stoics would remind us, though, that the ultimate goal isn't to feel accomplished, but to live righteously and consciously. It doesn't mean you shouldn't celebrate your wins, it just means that you should celebrate who you became in the process, not the title you earned in the end. If you enjoy content like this, consider hitting the subscribe button and liking the video. It helps out a ton, and I post videos almost every single day on philosophy, Stoic wisdom, and the practical application for our modern day issues. Until next time though, keep on growing.